Okay, so this is casual, but I just thought that we should probably have something where we talk about what's on everyone's mind right now.
Yeah.
Which is a major lifestyle change for many of us. Some of us not as much than others, but I thought that I would just jump in with a whole bunch of misinformation and throw it at you so that you guys can correct it and tell everyone what they should really know.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the CDC if we're getting tested.
I know.
Right? CDC website.
I was just getting my highly reliable information from Instagram, but yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's good. That's good, though.
The New York Times is updating live. I'm like, okay, so we'll be somewhat legit here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before we really talk about, like, on a more global scale, or even, like, on a countrywide scale, what's going on is affecting everyone, I think it'll be good if we came at it from, like, this is my situation, and here's how it's changing because of what's happening.
Yeah.
So Eve, go first.
Sure.
Wait,
sure.
I'm sorry. Can we? I'm totally being taking over the. Should we introduce ourselves first?
So today with me is.
My name is Eve Crepochet. I'm the executive director of Take This, mental health organization serving the game industry and the game enthusiast community.
My name is Marie Shanley, better known as Mxiety. I am a mental health talk show host and ambassador for Take This, and qualified in very few forms other than being a staunch advocate and having lived experience.
Excellent.
Those are important qualifications. Yes, and as you all know,
I call them qualifications.
Oh,
koala.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
it. We're done.
That's the street. That's the whole.
Oh, okay, so we're going to talk about our own situations and what they were like point A and what they're going to be like at point B, so that we can epitomize, us three people, the entirety of the world, and have some perspectives that might touch on some people's experiences that are going to be upcoming.
Sure.
I believe Eve's going first.
Okay. As executive director of Take This, I work from home. And I have done that. We are a fully distributed organization, so I've done that for the entirety of my time at Take This. I also, my husband also works from home. He also is, he's CEO of a fully distributed game studio. So we are insulated more than others because we already were in this situation where we didn't have to leave on a daily basis. We have a 9-year-old daughter, and because we live in Kirkland, Washington, which is the epicenter of the U.S. epidemic, we have been practicing some level of social distancing for a few weeks, and Arya's school was just closed for 6 weeks. So on Wednesday afternoon, her district, which had been holding the line pretty consistently, they had removed all. They'd stopped letting volunteers go into the school. They'd stopped all activities. They'd stopped all extracurriculars. But they were still holding class because they felt like they wanted to keep kids in school as long as possible, keep them actually contained, and provide the childcare and meals that so many people need. But then on Wednesday, our governor announced new social distancing requirements, banning large gatherings, et cetera. And the school district, the Seattle School District and the Lake Washington School District, which we're part of, immediately announced closures. And we had hoped that there was going to be some sort of online learning, and that hasn't materialized yet. We don't know if it's going to. We don't know what it's going to look like. So we have been left kind of high and dry with a kiddo, a third grader, home for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so you've gotten ahead of this then. You're really like the future of all of our experience.
We are the future. Although this is the same day that our closures were announced. Like my sister, who's student teaching in Somerville, Massachusetts, her schools were closed for 2 weeks. This is like, it's snowballing rather quickly. And then, of course, I have my parents and my in-laws are both in risk categories just because of their age, and my father's undergoing chemo right now. So he's in a major risk category. He's over 70 and he has and he's immunocompromised. And so those are really scary things. And, at one point we had considered sending my daughter to be with her grandparents, and that's off the table now because we don't want to be a potential carrier into those places. Basically now it's like, thank God for video chat, right? My parents both live in northern Vermont. Internet's not great there. We're doing what we can, but they're trying to stay as isolated as possible. It's a tough situation. We have a kid, so she can't be totally isolated or we'll all lose our minds. And that's a non-clinical term.
She said it.
It is a real term. And so, we're trying to stay really conscious of having a small group of people that we interact with, but maintaining that. Our neighbor just came to the door an hour ago with some books for Aria, and to say that her college age kids are both on their way home because their classes have been moved to all online. And, we said, well, maybe if they get bored, they're interested in helping Aria with a class or something, and my neighbor has offered to teach Aria how to crochet or knit. And so, we're looking at this is just going to be a totally new kind of how many unusual skills and things that we don't usually get to do with our daughter can we do? How many home projects can we take on because we're, and how much cooking because we're not going out to eat. We recognize we're really concerned about hourly wage earners. My brother, who is a musician, he's looking at potentially up to 6 months of no work, right?
Yeah.
And that's really scary. And so how can we, from our place of privilege, provide as much support to people who are in that kind of a position, but at the same time as keep ourselves safe and healthy and not become carriers? Yeah. So it's despite the fact that both David and I work from home already, this is a seismic change for us. And there's so many ways in which it's scary and uncertain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a lot of questions about that, but I'm going to have Mxiety talk about her situation, and then we will definitely get back to all of the probably commonalities that might be happening here. So
yeah,
take it away.
So from my end, I basically say that I have 2 full-time jobs, not one part-time job because streaming takes up a lot of time. And one is I have a 9-to-5 where I'm a project manager and medical editor for a medical publishing company. And then on the other side, I'm a live streamer with a mental health talk show that requires research and enough background information to be able to present, information properly, the things that I'm talking about. So I'll talk about both sides of that. So on one end, on my 9-to-5, I was actually terrified because they were talking about the fact that they didn't want us to work from home. They were insisting that we shouldn't work from home. And I don't have proof of this. I don't have any tangible proof of what I'm about to say, but somebody very high up in my company apparently asked for our HR person to come down and say that if you are over 65, please start working from home. If you are not over 65, too bad. Childcare is not their problem. So if your children are working from home, that's their issue. And then somebody brought up, well, I might have my parents who are over 65 watching my children, and then I'm immunocompromised, I'm compromising them.
Yeah.
And the literal words that were passed down to us, so this might be a game of telephone, was that's not their problem. And we should, quote, maybe avoid visiting your parents for about 2 weeks. So we did not get and I should back up. We are 100% capable of working from home. My entire job, from paying invoices to talking to 4 different people a day that I need to continue getting projects moving, all of it can be done remotely. I do not need to be in the office for 99% of it. And the 1% is just, it would be nice if I was there in person because it would be faster to talk to me. Uh-huh. Right? like a lot of remote first jobs. Like, okay, yeah, it would be great if we were all in the office, but we're not necessary at all. There's all the technology infrastructure is in place. Like my phone, I don't have a desk phone. My phone is through my computer. Everything is Google, everything's Gmail. So like, again, nothing at all is preventing me. So there was an uproar, and people may have written to newspapers, but again, we didn't have solid proof. Like there's no recording. So yeah, and as of today, and again, this is a medical publisher, so they should have known better, and I think that's why people were exceptionally upset. But as of today, they said that everybody's working from home except managers coming in for the next 48 hours, and then after the next 48 hours, they will also be working from home. But for 48 hours, they have to create an action plan. And I was like, the action plan is that we all work from home. So I feel bad. It's for like my department. Like I feel bad my boss has to continue going in so that he could be like, yep, my employees are sure going to work from home. Yeah, so that's the 9 to 5. And I'm in a very stressful time right now. There's a lot of projects in a crunch type period right now. So that that's been very stressful, and definitely having to separate that. Like it's very interesting because I literally have a physical separation, right, from my 9 to 5, where I go into an office and I go buy lunch and all that stuff that involves that. And then I come home and I have my stream and everything that's involved with that and the research. So it's a physical separation that I'm no longer going to have. Everything's going to happen at this desk. And so like, that is a little bit of an adjustment. I wouldn't put that in a category of like very difficult things to deal with, but it's definitely going to be a little bit of something to kick around. Then in terms of the streaming aspect of it, there's also another aspect I just remembered. Sorry, I will get to it. But the streaming aspect of it is trying to balance information. So I have again, mental health advocate. I have a bunch of really panicked, full of anxiety and depression and all kinds of things, people in my community coming in and being like, I need information. Wait, that's too much information. Wait, I need to know these things so I feel better. Wait, no, I don't want to hear about it. I need to relax right now. And so balancing that has been a challenge on top of everything that's going on with the 9 to 5. And then to add just a few things peppered in my personal life. Number one, we started the process of selling our condo and buying a new house before everything exploded. So, but now we had put an offer down on a house 2 weeks ago. So right before things got, like we literally did it before we went to PAX. And if y'all remember, after PAX East was when people were like, hey, Seattle's under quarantine, basically. So we were like, the timing on this is great. And so we had 2 open houses this weekend. So people were coming in through our house, and we were, that face is the one I was making all weekend. So everything is sanitized. Thank God we just stockpile Lysol wipes because we're paranoid people here. So we had all the cleaning supplies, and like everything's cleaned and re-cleaned and like great, like that's all okay, and we've calmed ourselves down. But so that adds to it, right? And then the last little bit of stress is my husband has OCD and panic disorder. I have anxiety, so I have to. All of this is going on, and if anybody's ever sold a house and bought a house,
it's a major life change. That's one of the
isn't
it? One of these lists. I feel like it's one of the top.
Yeah, it's like top 3. Yeah, it's like divorce, buying a house. Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
Plus, didn't you just like launch a book? So are you supposed to tour or something?
Yeah, I'm like supposedly launched a book. Everything's on hold. I was supposed to be calling like Barnes and Nobles and stuff. That's all on hold. I'm like, forget about the book. Like that's the last thing.
Shameless self-promotion. Stay home and read
my book. Thank you. It's not self-promotion if you told it first.
Stay home and read your book.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's true. And yeah, everybody stay home, read my book. Well, that explains it. And maybe it'll explain some things to you.
People are wondering what the explanation is, and you can say you have it.
There you go. Yeah. And so I have anxiety. And so it would have been hard enough to have this like third job basically of home selling and buying on top of all this, but having somebody living with anxiety and then my husband living with panic disorder the way he does, it's been, and his trigger is emetophobia. So he's terrified of vomiting, which means he's terrified of being sick. So that makes for both of us being like, I can't support you right now. Okay, I can't support you either. Like, it's a very interesting time in this 11-year-old relationship where, like, we know we got each other's backs. I saw a great tweet recently, which was like, she's my best friend. I married her because she's the love of my life and she's my soulmate, but we've been in quarantine for a week and I think I might kill her. Like, it's that times all the stress that's happening, right? So, and again, like, this would have all been okay without the virus. Like, without the virus, all of this is stressful enough. But to add this on top, just the, like, do we leave the house? Do we not leave the house? There's cases in New Jersey, but not that many. And, like, you walk out of the house and you go and get groceries at Trader Joe's and somebody goes like, and you're like, I can't afford this. Right? I understand nobody can afford to get sick, but I can't. I have no time. Don't have time. So, no. So that's my spiel. I still realize that despite all this, like, we're definitely more privileged than some, and making sure to support, like, artist friends. And at the same time, like, my community is all online and streaming. And that is probably one of the very few places where your income might not be disrupted. However, if people are not making money to be able to support you, then it still is disrupted, right? Yes. So, so it's a lot. I think I'm saying exactly what everybody else is probably saying, which is, it's just a lot, man. Like, regardless of what's going on in your personal life, it's a lot. And I feel like it could still even be worse. And I can't even imagine that. So kudos to whoever is having even worse time with, like, their income and all that. Like Eve was saying, your brother, like, that's, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Quick sum from me, just because I feel like I might have a couple boxes that might be covered that aren't necessarily, so we can well round ourselves. I work from home normally, so that's not change for me. The change for me is that all the schools are closed here. So my 16-year-old will be now home with me for the next 10 days without any foreseeable work to be done from the school, while they sort of scramble in a similar way that they did for you, even try to figure out, like, what they're going to do with her. My college-age child is now driving back 9 hours to come back here because her school has been shut down and everyone's been ejected from the campus. So she's got to go to virtual classes, which I don't know that they're set up to do, but they're going to figure it out. And so now they're here in our one living room and dining room, open floor plan, very small place. And then my husband is also off of work for the next 30 days. And that would be directly behind me. Yeah. So fortunately for him, he thought ahead, like, a few days ago and got this, like, sort of like a WeWork space where you can go into town and, you know, you rent, like, a little room basically, and then you can work from there. So thinking ahead to the sanity of our family, he did this. So he will be able to go there for now, at least. But the thing that's hard is that there are other people that I care about that aren't in town, that aren't going to be as easy to go and support or be with, and they're kind of alone. And that's, I think, what's hard. Not just the fact of, like, I like my routine, like my quiet, like my solitude, and now all of us are basically in one room, like, every day, all the time. But because also there's people that, you know, you would like to be with that you can't just freely travel around anymore to see, and you worry about them. You know, my parents are close by enough, thankfully, that I can get to them. My niece is now being watched by them because her daycare just closed. So she's 5. So hopefully my kids will be able to go and help, you know, a little bit with that, because I know my parents aren't expecting to, like, it's been a long time since they dealt with a 5-year-old for a long concerted period of time. So this will be fun. But yeah, I mean, that's an hour and a half from where my brother lives. So he's going to be driving his daughter, like, an hour and a half to be watched during the day so he can continue to go to work, because they are not working from home. So they're all going in like regular people. But I guess the thing is, like, I think that even I probably have in common here is, like, you're used to working in somewhat, like, routine, somewhat privacy, and now you're going to have more so for you than me, because my children are teenagers and they can amuse themselves. The younger kids are going to be in and out, and it's not fair to ask, like, a 5-year-old like Ava, hey, to just go 8 hours and amuse yourself, now you're going to have to try to parent and work and handle a lot of things at once that might not be on people's plates normally. And I suspect, for me, and I suspect you guys are in the same boat, being a sort of empathetic person, like it feels like so much, like the whole world feels so heavy right now. Like even if it's not affecting like me personally, I can just feel it. Like I'm so tired every day. I'm just like, wow, there's a feeling, it's hard to describe, that's really like dragging you down. So your turn.
On that note.
Yeah, on that note. So there's the standard like, oh, I work from home. This is how can I function, which are for normal situations. But because this is a little unusual, do we have any thoughts on how to, let's start from the working perspective, and then we'll start to the mental perspective. Like, do you have any like official thoughts on, other than the usual, like, oh, get dressed, pretend like you're going to an office, all that stuff, like how to work from home, in a way that's now different for people? Jump in as you will.
Yeah. It is, you need to create a sense that you have a space, even if it's just like a corner, but that's your workspace and that's where you do your work. And you have hours when you work and hours when you don't work, that you shut things down. I have a kind of ceremony at the end of my workday where I either put my computer to sleep or shut it down, and I turn my circuit breaker off and I unplug my mic and I walk away.
Okay.
And that's my signal that I'm done with the workday. And yes, I'm an executive director. Sometimes, especially now, we're doing crisis response work in terms of trying to get things moving. And so there are times outside of those work hours when I need to be responsive. But I set up do not disturb on my phone on the weekends and at night. I have great digital well-being tools. So I try to keep those boundaries really clear. That is going to change tomorrow morning when my daughter is home, and my husband he doesn't work in the house. He works in we have this lovely barn in our backyard that he works from. And so there's this physical proximity issue that we're going to have to deal with. And there's going to be a lot more interruptions and a lot more fluidity. And one of the things that we've done is talked explicitly among my husband and I of, there are times when he's going to be primary parent and times when I'm going to be primary parent, so that we have time, because I'm also an introvert. I need time alone. I need time that's quiet. And time when she can leave the house or be with friends that I don't have to worry about. Because at 9, she's old enough to play with her friends without me having to really worry about her, gotcha. Right? Even in the house. And so there are ways in which we can create, you kind of create artificial barriers and separations, because boundaries are always important. Good boundaries are always important. They're even more important in this kind of a situation, right? So there's that. There's also a lot of checking in, right? I've got a WhatsApp thread with a bunch of local friends here, and we're all just staying in touch because we're all working from home and we're all, okay. Social distancing. And this is our way of, like, we had a Zoom dinner call the other night.
Oh.
So there are ways to create interaction and create a sense of togetherness, even without being together. And that's some of what we've tried deliberately to do. Yeah. And the other is getting outside.
Yeah. We're fortunate, if it can be said, that this is at least a time of year where there is a possibility to go out for those of us not on the beautiful West Coast, where it's not snowy and things are getting warmer. Because if this is in December, that would have been so tragic.
Yeah, we just had a time change. The days are getting longer. It is allergy season for me, but it was gorgeous sunny day today here, and I just was so happy to be out with my dog. So going outside is not dangerous, especially if you're not in a crowd, right? Right. There's a, go take a walk. You can take a walk anywhere. It's free and it's not going to get you sick unless you're, like getting coughed on by somebody. Right. So try to do that as much as possible.
Well, what about you, Ray? Your worlds have meshed together in a world.
Yeah. So, and like you, my husband's desk is right there. And where we live, getting like a workstation is not necessarily, like Jersey is not necessarily the place you would do. Like he would have to drive somewhere to do that. I'm in Jersey.
Hang out with you. We'll work on this.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk. I didn't know that you were close to me either. So his desk is right to the left of me, which has been challenging. Like we've had the challenge on our best days where I've been like, yay, I'm taking a day off so I can record a bunch of podcasts and videos and stuff. And he's like, I still have to do not that. So physically separating the space as much as I can has been, is going to be the name of the game. And that is how we've solved the problem in the past. When I've had to work from home, I have a laptop for my work and a desktop for my computer. So physically creating a mental barrier between all of the things. So saying like, now I'm going to go to my desktop and do all the things on my desktop that I need to do. That could get interrupted also if I need a second monitor on my laptop, but we're not going to think about that right now. But as I have the laptop, like I can work in the kitchen. We have a little like breakfast bar. I can work there. And if I have to take a call, taking it separately. So just creating that physical space as much as possible. And the other thing, they say like, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. So, and I'm a project manager. People, I think other project managers say that, which is not saying a lot.
That's not nice.
It's just keeping sanity while your time management is like this.
Okay.
But yeah, so right now that's been super, super crucial. And I get very project management-y about I have to, that's the only way that I can do streaming and what I do separately. But to kind of do that and schedule in free time, it has been, and I say free time because it's still loosely, but that has been crucial. And, to do that, like one of the things that we did, so today we had an open house. So what we tried to do is do everything distracting, take advantage of that. We went out, we were outside, we went and washed the dog, we played, we like ran around after geese with the dog, like just kind of trying to do everything that would keep our minds off of it and trying to keep like house talk and everything away, kind of being like, hey, listen, it's an open house and we're terrified that we're going to come in and we're going to have an virus infested home. But in the meantime, in these 3 hours where the only thing we can control is how we enjoy these 3 hours, like these 3 hours are a gift to us to try to recuperate some of our mental health, where the only thing we can do is try not to focus on everything going on and just enjoy that moment, right? Be like, we are literally on a timer for having a good time. So let's make sure we have a good time and taking that separation. And then again, and I think Eve, you might agree with me, just having a dog in general, that like they require a walk, they require you to move, and I'm sure kids do as well. But if to a child you can explain like, okay, I need you for an hour maybe to play. If a dog needs to go out and pee, he can't be like, can you sit for an hour? Like they don't comprehend that. So kind of having him as that force, like you are getting up and leaving right now because this is what you have to do. Like as annoyed as I get at that, when I'm like in the middle of working and I'm in it and all of that, like it's a blessing in disguise because I'm forced to step away.
Uh-oh.
And there's nothing I could enjoying, that like 10 minutes that I have of just doing that, or I'm just like wasting the very little time I have. So yeah, so separating as much as you can, like you said, like making sure your space is a specific space, even if it's just a corner, and then kind of really organizing your time better, being on top of it. I find, so again, I can pull out all my project management stops. People work on block schedules, which I find super, super helpful. So what block schedules are a lot of people are like, well, I can't only do X for 30 minutes. Like, I don't like being stuck in a time crunch. So block schedules allow you to be able to say, like, in this time, I'll be probably doing this. In this time, I'll be probably doing this. And then you take that block and you move it as necessary. And you can do that like a week out of schedule. So you schedule out you schedule everything out in like hours blocks of time. And then you can physically, if you do it in an Excel doc, you can physically move those cells around. So you could see, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And for me, visually having that representation, that usually suits me. Like having a lot to do and having a lot going on and having these little blocks that I can move around feels like I'm controlling the moment a little bit more. Mm-hmm. In terms of empathizing with the world and being like, everybody's having a hard time, which means I'm having a hard time for everybody on this planet who are having a hard time. In terms of that, that's again, like for me, it's just distraction. So can I sit down for like 3 minutes and read a magazine? Sometimes not. Like I've literally had to like sit down and read a magazine while I'm eating so that I'm not, because if I'm eating, I'm thinking about all the things that are happening. So I have to like distract myself with something that where the stakes are super low. So Frozen 2 is on Disney Plus early. I'm just saying, I've been watching that. Like anything and everything to separate things out and distract.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot, a ton. And that's been really important. It's just like I need something that will take me totally out of the situation. Watching things is fine. Playing games is good. Playing games online with people is good because then you have a sense of connection. That's online games are really good at that. If you can play something with friends, yeah, all of those ways to really get your head out of it is totally awesome.
I'm going to be, again, shamelessly plugging, find a streamer that you like. Yeah, because that is like, if you're not into, I don't think anybody watching this is not going to be into games, but maybe you're like, listen, I've played through every game and like, I'm bored of my library for now. Go and like hang out in a group of people who are literally with somebody in charge who's there to entertain you for, 2-3 hour chunks of a time. And they're going to lead the charge and you just have to like sit there and enjoy it. Or you can participate in this conversation that's happening and it is happening. Like it's like a passive way to continue, again, holding those conversations and feeling social and everything. Like live streaming right now, I feel like is really, really clutch for an extension of what Eva was saying.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great point because it's built in community too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. I mean, I love to watch like live streamers of people making crafts. Like it doesn't have to be gaming. It can be
right. That's also very true. Or like people, it blows my mind when people do their makeup really well. Like, oh my God, I could watch that. Yeah.
As someone who doesn't wear makeup and has no skill, yes.
just watching that, like I thought I was decent at makeup. I'm like, I can do an eyeliner from first try. I'm a genius, right? And then you go into these streams and there's women like transforming themselves into the cosmos. And you're like, what? That's so cool. And there's people talking to them and there's community happening at the same time. Like it is the definition of creativity and watching it blossom is really.
And that's a great thing right now for kids to do is to find stuff online that will teach them how to. So we're doing a lot of that is how do we find opportunities for Arya to do, because she's not going to have, traditional school for this period of time.
Right.
We can't replicate that. And in some ways, it's impossible to. And so, yeah, like crafts online, and tutorials online, all that kind of stuff is awesome. Because there's an almost infinite variation and variety. Yeah.
Here was something I was thinking about, and like it's got two facets. One of which is, hey, gaming has been doing this for ages. Like we've been live streaming games, we've been live streaming content for ages. I mean, there's WebEx and things like this, but I wonder if schools have the understanding of how simple it would be to throw some overlays up and jump on Twitch. And like, yes, I get your classroom is now public and maybe you didn't want people to see, history, history 102, but still, like, there are so many ways that it could be very simple for schools to just, do this and just share screen and have like a small overlay and something like that.
They started doing that in one of the local school districts.
Yeah.
And then they were working really hard to figure out equity. So access both to internet and to devices. And the state, and this is a really interesting dynamic because it's really nuanced and complicated. The state superintendent's office actually asked them to stop because there wasn't equity. They had not been able to, they said only if you are able to ensure that every student has access in the right way, can you do this? Because otherwise you're going to create a greater equity gap.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating to most parents who have access, but we forget from our place of privilege how devastating it is for a kid to suddenly be, 2, 3, or in our cases 6 weeks behind because they don't have access. And so it's pretty complicated to try and figure out, what do you do there? You need,
ours also work from iPads. Like, I don't know how your school district works, but they issue every child an iPad, and that's not really conducive to a lot of the programs that you would use. Like,
our district, starting in 4th or 5th grade, has laptops for every kid, netbooks for every kid, which is great. But below that grade level, they don't necessarily have that. And not every household has unlimited internet or high-speed internet to support the kind of video conferencing that they need to do to actually offer instruction.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated and not great situation. And right now they're focused on how do we make sure that kids still have access to meals, subsidized meals, the free and reduced price breakfast and lunch, because that's a major thing that kids don't have access to if they're not in school. And it's a major cost to parents. And how do they provide childcare to kids whose parents work in healthcare? Because if your parent works in a hospital, it's all hands on deck there. Our local hospital, Evergreen, is the hospital that is at the center of this epidemic here. It's the one that's been in the news. It's where the people from the Life Care Center went, and where most of the deaths have been.
Okay.
And so, and we know people who work there, and it's a very stressful time, and they don't have any choice. So, so it's like, yeah, the technology's there, but we still have equity issues.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I used to work for Pearson like 10 years ago now. Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 years ago now, and they were already handing out kids iPads, and they like had all these tools. So to know that there's still parts in the country where there's still not that equality, like that blows. That's terrible.
But
then
I mean, I live in the backyard of Microsoft and Amazon, in a upper middle class community.
Microsoft, are you listening? Come on, this is a great opportunity.
And like, we know these things and we forget them because we live in these communities where almost everybody, but not everybody, has access, and it's so easy to forget. Yeah, it's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dr. Kelly Dunlap, who, like her students she is going to be conducting a class on Mixer next week. And I'm like, when can I come on?
Going to listen in. Like, she knows so well.
I'm like, I'm watching that. Are you kidding me? Like,
sorry,
I get a free access to like her state school. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So I'm going to be watching that. But like in that case, that's very different because those are college kids and like they have to have laptops and internet. Like they were going to be doing that anyway. So, but like, hell yeah, it's going to be the fact that we're going to have public knowledge actually publicly accessible. That's kind of cool. Like now is a great opportunity to learn stuff. There was like this really silly tweet that I saw that was like, Einstein invented something while in isolation, and Shakespeare wrote King Lear while in quarantine, and like, you'll figure out how to unmute yourself on Zoom while in quarantine.
Yeah, and there was a response to that tweet, which was, and they didn't have to provide childcare.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's I want to acknowledge that, like, this is good. This is hard and it's complicated, and people are not. The other thing is, especially if you have kids at home, or if you have a situation at home that is busy or complicated in some way, you're not going to be as productive as you are at work.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
One, you are not alone in that, and two, it is what it is. Like, this is going to change the way you do work for a little while, and don't. And it's okay to recognize that, and to see it happening, and to acknowledge it, because there is nothing normal about this situation.
I don't have kids, and I am not like, I know I'm going to be beating myself up over a loss of productivity just because of like change and what's happening and everything. So I can only imagine what that's like when there's literally another person depending on you to entertain them, and so
feed them. I mean, just right. The amount of energy that goes into feeding my child on a daily basis.
Oh my God. I can't, again, I barely feed myself. I feel like you're like a national hero right now. I understand. I understand people are mothers. You have one child, right? Some people have like multiple. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think this is an opportunity though. Like for me, in some ways, I'm looking at it like that, because I'm the person that, I mean, Maria knows this, like, you work in community, there is no boundary.
Yeah.
I mean, there just isn't. Like, it's not like I can turn my computer off, because there's never a time that happens. So for me, I'm like, oh, I have to get up at this time now every day, and I have to make breakfast for multiple people. I cannot sit around in my PJs and then at noon realize I haven't eaten breakfast and shove something into my face while in the middle of my 4th meeting today. That is not possible. So for me, like, this is going to provide a weird amount of structure that I'm not used to, which might actually end up being better for me. Because now it's like, okay, well, I have to take an hour lunch break to feed the kids and, like, spend time with them, instead of just being like, now I have to.
Are we all going to learn work-life balance?
I might. Community managers learn work-life balance 2020.
We might. Yeah, it might be good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was fascinating to me when I was out today walking my dog. I mean, one, it was a beautiful day, and in Seattle, if it's sunny, like, everybody goes outside. Oh my God, it's sunny, right? But, everybody was home. There was just a lot of activity, and everybody was in their front yards or doing things, or, their garages were open. And I realized that people have had to reorient towards their homes in a really different way. And, you can take that as an opportunity.
Like, your neighbors. I don't even know who my neighbors are. I share a wall with them, and I do not know who my neighbors are. Like, no. So this is a weird, like, throwback to the 1950s, where we're all going to stand outside our fences going, the weather.
That happened during Sandy. The whole, like, literally we walked outside. It was so funny. And like, my husband's father, because I was staying with them at the time, and my husband's father was standing with 2 of his neighbors. And I swear to God, it was a King of the Hill scene. Like, verbatim, where they were like all drinking beer and going, and we like walked back into the house. We were like, oh my God, I can't. So it's real. The only other time I've seen something like that again was like Pokemon Go launch. But it was really, there's something about it that's like good. Maybe we can reconnect. But then there's the other side of it, which I like can't stop thinking about also, is like people in domestic violence situations where they can't leave, and there's like hotlines and stuff set up for those specific people to try to get them to a place where they can still be safe. And like, that stuff is another thing where like, I didn't always have a home where I wanted to be all the time. So I'm very grateful that, like, as much as I joke that like, I'm spending time with my husband, like, I love spending time with my husband. Some people don't have that privilege, and that's also very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So,
and
but everybody's,
Yeah, people like if you're in that kind of a situation, it's still okay to leave right now, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
not quarantined from making, smart choices for yourself.
Right.
Yes.
If you're
Right.
sick or if you are in danger, this is still the time to get out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to say also that I did read, it's interesting that talking about sort of this coming together of people and things like that. I did read that a lot of museums are sharing virtual tours that they have already built in on their website so that your kids can have things to do. And also, I think it's the Metropolitan Opera is going to be allowing like their shows to be streamed so that, because people aren't coming, so you can watch like live while they do like operas.
That's pretty amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of arts organizations are struggling, but if, large institutions like the Metropolitan Opera, they can probably figure out how to do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, we need to take this channel, like a streaming channel where just host, what we need is Bob Ross to come back. We need Bob Ross, or we need like Mr. Rogers in this time of crisis that we can just watch all day long on like a marathon. That's what we need.
I think Twitch still has a 24-hour Bob Ross channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Do they still?
I think they do. I think it's like its own. It used to be streamed on like twitch.tv, but I think it's its own. It's its own thing. If I'm not, we're just 24-hour videos of Bob Ross. You're giving me a great idea, I think, because I was thinking like, what am I going to stream on Tuesday? Because we talked COVID on Thursday, and it was literally like after 40 minutes I saw people were like, this is too heavy, this is too much. So that's a really, because I have paints, I have an easel, I might do a Bob Ross stream.
I think you should paint
people chill out.
Damn trees. I'm
gonna paint the happiest damn trees you've ever seen.
See, I like that idea.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk to the community, and I'm gonna do that, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I might do I make little like dragons, like frogs and dragons and weird little like
that's so cute.
Like,
I don't know what sound I just made, but that's really cute.
Is that clay?
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter
so cute.
A bunch for her birthday and was trying it today. She saw the dragon. She was like, "Oh, I want to make that. That's really hard."
I was like, "No, it's not hard. It's not hard at all." I mean, my kids make it, and sometimes they're more recognizable than others, even though they're teenagers. But just as Bob Ross says, there's nothing wrong when you make your own little tree. So you can make your own little clay thing. Do something like that.
That's awesome. She made a ice cream cone and a hamburger and what was the third thing she made? Crap, forget something else today. And it was it was really cool. So.
I like that a lot. All right.
Yeah, a good idea.
Okay.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So how do you think relationships are going to change that are good? Like, I mean, not good things necessarily, but let's say a relationship's decent, right? But it's going to change because now you're in a confined space together over a period of time in times of the day that you're not normally together. What are recommendations on how to sort of get through that in a way that keeps your relationship positive and doesn't make you just not want to see each other like at all?
I was gonna say, so there's this really beautiful story, I think that's called The Blackout by Jupa Lahiri, and it's like part of her compilation of essays, and it talks about the fact that like there was this couple and they realized like it's dark and they have nothing else to do but like at candlelight basically stare at each other. And that's the moment where they have like their most difficult conversation. They end up being like, okay, we're going to split. Not what I'm saying I want to happen, but it's a beautiful,
it's over.
It's over. It's a beautiful story because I think these are wonderful moments to, again, like we were saying, connect with people in a way that we have not in a long time. And we might even owe each other. Like I recognize because like we're so stressed and like in different levels and trying not to take it out on each other, we kind of both internalized it like separately with my husband. And I feel like we've been taking little moments and be like, can you actually, I realize you've been sitting on that couch. Can you come and sit next to me? Cause like, we're both in this together. We don't have to keep 6 feet apart. Cause like, and making those little changes and making those like, I think we could take these opportunities to connect further, whether that's like, maybe like, I mean, I don't know, like my husband plays some games that I've never played. Like he's playing Dauntless right now. Maybe this will be the opportunity where I freaking try to play Dauntless. Also, Animal Crossing is coming out. He's going to visit my island. Things are going to change from there.
Globally, 9 months later, so many children.
That was, I just saw that. They called them quarantinagers. In 2033, they're going to be called quarantinagers, and I died.
Yeah.
Wait,
quarantini, which I thought was good, but quarantinagers, I love this.
What's 40 weeks from now? Where are we?
Look at the date.
It's March.
September?
Yeah. Wait, no. Yeah, no. September. No, December. Oh, Christmas babies. Oh my gosh. There's a bunch of Sandy babies. That was a big thing when after Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, there's a huge uptake in pregnancies. Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, this is a time to rediscover intimacy, right? But also to not force it.
Yeah, that's true.
It can be scary, right? That, it can be hard. It can be to be forced into that. So
yeah,
but yourself like the space to figure it out, but also to recognize it as an opportunity.
But I also feel like it's scary, but not a lot of people will have that conversation. I feel like now is the time. The conversation about like, how are you feeling right now? I feel scared. Mm-hmm. You feel scared. I feel scared. Let's talk about how we both feel scared. How often do you have time to have that conversation otherwise? We're both anxious. I'm also okay, let's talk about how we're both anxious, how we can work that. Like everybody just kind of runs and deals with it and runs and runs and runs. And you have this time to take a pause maybe. And yeah, so it is scary, but it might be the right moment to also like embrace that fear maybe.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we had to do was we had to figure out how much do we need for our own sense of safety to self-quarantine? Like what's the level of self-quarantine that we're going to do? Because right as this all happened, we had my daughter's birthday party here in the house. And like that was complicated. And so we had to set some parameters around that. And we were a little uncomfortable about how to do it and what it meant in terms of interacting with people. And so, using that as a jumping off point, like how do we feel? Are we being explicit about what we're doing? And how does that make us feel? Do we feel safer? Are there ways in which we want to adjust our response, and use that as a way to communicate, to walk into better communication, right? Or to more intense communication about or more intimacy, because it's our feelings and our exposure to like new information is changing all the time, and our comfort with it, so it's also going to change on a daily basis how we feel, and we want to be able to continue to have that conversation. It's not one that's going to happen once at all.
It's hard to explain, I think, to younger people too. Like my girls are like, why are we doing this? Like, we're going to be fine. Oh, well, if I get sick, I'm going to be okay. And I'm trying to explain that it's not really about you. You're going to be fine. It's about the people that you're going to infect, and they're going to infect other people. And then, this is like, think about, your grandparents are in the proper age that they could, something bad could happen to them, or, it's more about like caring for other people. And that's kind of hard, I think, for some younger kids, like not my kids, they should know, but younger kids, like, this isn't necessarily about you. You're going to be fine. Don't be afraid for yourself, because you don't want them to be like, oh, I'm going to die, but at the same time, like, this is about everybody's health, and how do you convey that your inconvenience is less important than somebody else's, long-term health.
Yeah, Jenesee, you make a really good point, because my daughter has generalized anxiety. And so we have had to manage that really carefully. And it's hard, because we can say pretty clearly that kids don't get sick from this. So you are not in mortal danger. And probably your mom and dad aren't going to get sick because we're not above 60. And so the three of us are going to be okay. Right. But then we have to be honest with her that her grandparents are in risk categories. And what does that mean? Right. And so how do you create a sense of urgency around protection and carefulness without creating anxiety in a kid?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways we've had to do that is to be very clear, matter of fact about the potential risk, but also to reassure, to be very consistent in a message of, we're doing this because we're going to avoid the worst, right? We are doing this as protection and as anticipation of what could go wrong if we didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And reminding ourselves that we are taking care of our whole community, which is not a value we have really strongly in the US, but like this is the time when we are taking care of ourselves and our communities together.
Yeah. It's a very good point. I think a lot of people need to be reminded of that. Like just the whole community, because we are very individualistic, and like, again, I've seen a lot of tweets. I've seen people in my community be like just dumbfounded by the fact that we're not taking basic precautions in the name of community. And I was like, because those things need to be, they're not given to us based on just how we socialize. So those need to be explained to us. And then like, it's not a given. It's not part of how we already talk. And so that's kind of like blown some people's minds in other countries. And that's not to say like, I don't love the country I live in or anything. I don't want anybody saying, like, thinking or saying anything. It's just more of like, this is how it is. And this is how we need to redirect that so that we can comprehend what the better good, like there's the better good. And then there's like the world's better good. Right.
Yeah. And it's like, one of the ways to frame it is also for people who because it's just a really strong cultural norm here that we're very individualistic and that has good and bad parts to it, as you say, right? But is to frame it as, if we transmit the virus, even if we don't get sick, we can transmit the virus. And if we do, and we cause lots of people to end up hospitalized, then our hospitals are not able to care for people who are truly sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
That's a good point too. It's got a real ricochet effect.
Yeah, it is. It's like, what we are trying to do is not keep ourselves healthy, but to prevent our healthcare system, which doesn't have extra capacity in general, prevent it from collapsing.
Yeah.
Because we all need that healthcare system, period, full stop.
Yeah.
And we need some kind of healthcare system.
Like,
yeah.
Like even my parents who were in their 70s, I've had to really like work hard to get them to, why don't you just put us somewhere away from you all and then we'll be fine and you just continue with your lives and get sick. Like, well, that's sweet of you, but that's not really how it works. And you know, this is like a joke. You guys are overreacting. I'm like, no, look at the toilet paper. It's not a joke. Like, and then, you know, slowly it creeps up on people like, oh, I went out today and this affected my life and this is real and now it's scary and it wasn't before. You know, it's like the realization kind of sweeping over the nation that this is like actually a pandemic that's really happening, and it isn't just an exaggeration from our, you know, millennial selves.
It is a certain kind of hell to, like, I remember like just today I had this in the middle of, we were playing with the dog and everything, I just had this realization of like, this isn't a movie. Like this feels like one of those dreams where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I was being chased by zombies. And then like, but I had a gun and I knew how to use it. So that was good because I just mowed down the zombies. And like, and then I woke up and like, oh, there's no zombie apocalypse. So like, it's fine. But it feels like one of those bad dreams where you wake up and you're like, oh, we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like it's not a Brad Pitt. Yeah. That's a real thing happening, right? And like, I don't think our brains are meant to understand that 7 billion people are potentially at danger. Like, I don't, yeah.
Well, how do you help someone who's younger? Like the college age people that I'm hearing from are going like, why did this have to happen in my youth? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, it's like personally attacking them. And it's like, I don't want to invalidate your experience of Like, this is something you will remember, and when you grow up, you will tell your children and your grandchildren, this happened to me. Like, I like to say, the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. You lived through it, you're fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I have to hold myself back from saying, like, your grandparents went to war. Like,
yeah,
like there's the older part of me that's just like,
yeah,
it's hard to balance that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got through SARS and I got through H1N1 was at my college. So like I've seen it, and I don't want to play the misery Olympics, but like, kid, you could, it's going to get worse.
Yeah,
Listen,
like it's going to keep happening.
It's going to keep happening, and it's probably going to get worse because also global warming's coming, and you can't just escape that by sitting in your house. But like, okay, kid, like, worry about why is this happening? Sorry, go ahead.
You've just cried.
I know. I mean, basically that's it. You know, I was a few years out of college when 9/11 happened, and 9/11 was not global, although the travel repercussions were global, and then the financial repercussions to some degree, and it felt like, you know, it felt for a period of time like the world was ending, and it was I remember I was living and working in Boston on 9/11, and so that was where one of the planes came from, and so it was, you know, it was a place of high panic, and there was a I worked near Prudential Tower, which was one of the large towers that was evacuated almost immediately. And I had this image of standing in the building where I worked and watching this stream of people walking out of the Prudential Tower and towards their homes and towards the T. And it was terrifying. You know, and I walked home because my mom called and was like, don't go on the subway. You know, she was worried that there was going to be some additional attack. And then, you know, hearing fighter jets fly over Boston, it was scary. You know, it was, and it felt like a threat, and it felt like everything was disturbed, etc. But we all moved on. You know, even the people who were really deeply affected, who had family members who died, like, we all had to rebuild our lives and move on. And it just becomes a part of the way that we live our lives. You know, these things all get woven into the tapestry. And when you're young, you don't realize how much gets woven into your tapestry, right? As you go. You don't realize the complexity and layers of your life, right? I mean, here I am at 41, I could never have imagined what my life is and how many things it includes right now, and how many experiences I've had. And so I think it's just that, you know, your life is never exactly what you expect. And surprises will always happen, and they will happen from the inside. You will do things that you didn't expect or didn't want to do. You'll make mistakes you didn't want to make, and they will happen from the outside. And they just are. They are what they are. This is what life is. And it will make your life richer. It may not make it less complicated. It may not make it easy, but it will make your life richer, right?
Yeah.
And in 60 years, you'll say, well, I lived through the global pandemic of 2020, you know?
But it'll be your first pandemic, like, hopefully the only. But, you know, that's when you're that age. Like, I remember when the Challenger blew up, like, that was just like, whoa, the universe has ended. But then since then, there's been, you know, sad tragedies and other things. And you just become, like you said, it becomes a thread in your tapestry. But the first one, I'm sure, is impactful for them at that age. And
absolutely,
that's what we're hearing now. I think a lot. It's like, yeah.
The amount of information we receive, and somebody's done research on this, and I don't have a name, so I probably shouldn't even be mentioning it, but the amount of information we receive, like, we live overall statistically in a safer world where there's less deaths over illnesses, where there's less violence than there ever was, like, all of that. But that's not what you hear. That's not the information that's out there. And so we definitely, it's definitely just hard to continuously take in all these awful events on the scale that they come to us. It's not that, like, it's not that they're huge and they're not important, but, like, it's not just, hey, there's a pandemic. I got my morning newspaper, and then I can go through the rest of my day going, okay, I know what I need to do, but I can go through the rest of my day. It's everything that I'm looking at. So I'm getting emails from Francesca's dress boutique telling me what precautions they're taking to make sure that I don't like get infected in their stores. Like, I'm not going to their store right now, which is a separate problem, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's a book, and I'm trying to remember, I've been told to read it like 5 times by 5 different people, but it's a great book it's about this. Hey, actually, we think the world is ending, but it's really about what type of information and how we consume it.
Yes. We might be talking about the same thing.
I think we are talking about the same book. And and I wish I remembered the name of it. Maybe we can find it and add it to the podcast.
I'm not laughing.
Between the two of us.
Everything you said is just like a reflection of my life. So I'm just ironically laughing when you say
I'm not taking it personally.
Not that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to provide comedic relief when I can, because it's I'm a streamer. I don't know. This is it. I talk for 3 hours and hopefully I make a few people laugh. So you're fine.
You're good at it. It's easy. This is another piece of advice I have, which is turn off the news and get offline.
Oh God, at least once a day, like for a period of the day, however long. I don't know, because I know like my job depends on reading the news and adding them to reports and like, so, but that it's even more important for me to take that 30-minute lunch break and step away from it and like read about something really dumb. Like maybe I'll go look at dog pictures, or I don't know if you all saw, again, shameless plug, but I just posted proper coronavirus handshaking technique by my dog. And it's my husband, instead of shaking his paw with his hand, he shakes it with his foot. So I'm just saying that stuff exists out there, and it helps, like reading those memes that like make fun of it a little bit helps me. Because I know people are like, oh, none of it's funny. I'm like, no, some of it's really funny to me. So I'm okay.
My Facebook wall. It is all shit posting. I'm not kidding. Yeah? I have not shit posted this much.
I'm just not on Facebook enough. I'm just not.
It's great. No, it's fantastic.
It's good. It's good.
Toilet paper, basically.
Yeah. And take, we were talking about like intimacy and time, with families and all this stuff. Like you're going to be forced, and I found this too myself, because I spend too much time on my phone, too much time online, like everybody else. But I realize I have to be present for my daughter more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so use that as an opportunity. And don't think of it. You have to reframe it. There's no other choice you have. Use that as an opportunity to create new dynamics and as an opportunity to reconnect, as opposed to thinking of it as an imposition.
Yeah. No,
right?
That makes absolute sense. Like, this is the chance. They're going to remember this.
Yeah.
But will they remember it like, oh, we spent some quality time together? Or will they remember it like my mom was screaming at me because I was interrupting her all day, which I'm speaking to myself about you.
Right. I mean,
this is
it. Yeah.
I mean, as a kid who grew up with her mom screaming at her when things were haywire, I like that a lot. No, that's like so important, because that is a lot of the, like when Sandy happened, a lot of the feelings that I had that stirred up of insecurity were not like, I was in a safe space. We had like everything was taken care of. Our refrigerator was running because my husband's parents had gotten like a generator, and I had warm clothes to sleep in. But like the flashbacks to that time of not feeling secure and feeling like everything was falling apart because my parents were acting like it was falling apart were very, very impactful. So I'm not saying like, don't traumatize your daughter, but I am saying like, I just do want to add value to that statement. Like that is really important I think from a kid's, as a traumatized kid, like, you can make a huge difference by being like, you know what, we can get, like having that memory to hold on to of like, actually, I know I can get through this because I remember going through it before and it was really scary, but also like I got to do these positive things. Like those are way better emotions to associate with these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And reframing that as an adult is really good too. Like, hey, am I going to create positive memories for myself? Like I can reconnect with exactly what you're saying. I can take the time to reconnect with my husband right now and, you know, really enjoy this time that we might not otherwise be afforded, or I can just spend it being anxious and panicked and like not nice to each other.
Yeah.
So
That's a
for
good
me,
point.
like my daughter went to college this year, so I'm still in that like transitional phase of like looking back through my whole life and going, how wrong have I done everything? Like I'm still in that phase where I'm just like, my baby is gone. So I've kind of learned from that, like, okay, well, my youngest one, I have a few years left, so I'm going to appreciate them because they will end. And that isn't something like with your first kid that I think you have time to realize, because it's just flying by so fast and you're just trying to like hang on by your nails. But, you know, I realize that now. So for me, like, I want to make sure that I take that time now they're both here to make them feel like we're connecting and we're having like, you know, a good experience in the midst of something bad. But for people, and this is maybe an Eve question, like for people like me, like I have a lot of anxiety, it's very high, and I can only do one thing very focused at a time. So I will focus 100%, disengage, focus 100%, disengage. So people coming at me really makes me snappy and angry, and I will tend to lash out because I cannot multitask very well when I'm super anxious. So what would you recommend for people that are like, you know, not my particular situation, but people that also are struggling with like their own mental health stuff, and now they have other people's mental health stuff in their space, and you know, it's probably not going to always be like a perfect union.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be harder, right? That's part of it. My first impetus, and you might have a better way of answering this, but what I think about is contracting, like being really explicit, you know, with people, to say, I need this time. I can't talk to you for this period of time, and you can do something else. You can name it. Like with my daughter, I would be explicit. Like, I will give you this time to watch something on your iPad, but I need to not be. And then afterwards, we can do X together. And like the way you deal with a 9-year-old is maybe a little bit more directive.
But no, I think it's very similar. I've literally had that conversation with my husband.
If you go sit on the couch, then you may have this snack later.
Yeah, or like, Aria, you've got to clean your room. And once you clean your room, you can do X, Y, and Z, right? And that gets the room clean. It gets her busy. And it gets me time. And then I can reward her with something afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And is this something that I have solved? No, but that's my intention for this coming 6 weeks, is having those really explicit. And there's a couple of like sample temporary homeschool schedules running around among parents, right? Like setting up schedules with your family, not just yourself.
Oh no, I made that for my child, and she was like, I'm 16, I decide what I want, basically. Like, she said it nicer, but that was essentially what she said. And I was like,
but you're also like, hey kid, you need, like, I'm still parenting you, and you don't understand what this is going to do to your own sense of the world.
Like, I need this schedule. This is for me, so I know what
but you also probably are going to need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's tough, I think, as a parent, not to deprioritize your child, but at the same time to understand, like, I'm doing something also important, and it's like, you know.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to be a good parent if I have to parent 24/7.
Right.
Wow. So it's okay. Like, Aria's going to watch a little bit more television.
You've come to terms with this. You've accepted this.
And she just is, and she's going to play a little bit more on her a little bit more on her Nintendo, but that's fine. She has a Switch and a DS because we're game house. And
so that's fair, everything. But I just like, look, 2 hours of Heartland is all we can take. I mean, we cannot watch 7 hours of Heartland today. It's just not going to happen.
Right? Yeah. So we're just trying to find that balance and recognize that it's not going to look normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So what do you
I mean,
guys think? I mean, this is all new for you. Marie's not work from home, but Eve, sounds like you've got that down. I mean, I guess for me, I'm a little concerned that my company might get sort of more strategic about things when we all work from home anyway. I'm hoping like people don't implement tools that are unneeded just in the sake of implementing tools, because that's what people do in times of crisis.
yeah, that's interesting. You mean in terms of like tracking hours or
Yeah, or just like,
or
we all need to be on a Zoom meeting now when we've worked our whole lives for the last like 3 years, never being in a Zoom meeting and don't care to be in a Zoom meeting. Like I do not want that stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there are ways in which the isolation of this time requires us to think differently a little bit, right? That face-to-face meetings might actually be useful, not for our productivity, but for our mental health and our cohesion and our sense of focus, right? And does that mean every day? No, hell no.
Right.
But it might be useful, right? It might be a useful sense of connection at a time when that feels really loose and uncomfortable. So I don't want to dismiss it out of hand. It does feel important as a leader, as the boss, for me to have a little bit more of an eye on my employees' mental health right now. Because I feel responsible to ensure that that's okay, right? And the stress levels are higher at work, and we are trying to get out, a whole bunch of new materials and resources in the next 5 days to our community because they need it. And that's stressful for us. So there are going to be some responses that need to be slightly more deliberate. But they shouldn't be at the expense of our ability to do our work. Right? Like the more you can, work can almost be therapeutic in this kind of a situation, because you can do the thing you have to do and you know how to do, and you can be competent, and that's good. That's an important thing. Like a sense of self-efficacy around work right now is helpful, because you don't have a sense of agency or self-efficacy about the virus and the response.
Control. Feeling the feeling as though you can control. That's the thing that always I come back to, like, as in the house buying process. You have very little control over, other than like, hey, here is our money. Please, can I have your house?
You haven't sold yours, or what is the situation?
So ours is we're closing. What is it? So we finished attorney review, meaning we put in an offer for this house, and it's contingent on us selling this house.
Okay.
So then we had 2 open houses, and offers are coming in.
Okay.
Knock on
so
everything.
You really do have to get this done. You can't just postpone this and be like, well, in 3 weeks when everyone's okay, you'll come see my house. You must do this now. This is
that was and that was the worst of it, is that we had, before we left, we put in an offer, and Seattle hadn't happened yet. So we were like, we're just doing what we planned to do, which was move homes in 2020. And then everything exploded, and our offer was already out there, and it is where it is. And then once the offer was accepted, they're like, well, if you don't sell your house, you can't have this house. So
wow. Sorry,
stuff is in motion.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
No. But the feeling, those exact things where you're like, I'm in control, but I'm not exactly in control. I like that, going back to, I have work. Like, my 9 to 5 is a lot more predictable than my streaming job, right? It's a lot more. So I can go into my 9 to 5 and be like, and I literally have people that I am in charge of. So like, I feel more control over the situation, not necessarily over these people, but I can feel more control over like, I know what I need to do, what puzzle pieces I need to move to where, for them to start, for other people to start doing their jobs correctly. And that makes me feel like I'm in control of something, and something is stable, like status quo, like it's continuing in its course. That's a very good soothing feeling.
It is. And if you can't get that, if you're not working, if you're not able to work, or if your job does feel out of control, there are other ways to feel, to get that sense of self-efficacy of being in control. I like to cook, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It's better not to eat out right now, right? So cook, do things that where you can identify a sense of accomplishment. Like, I got dinner on the table tonight. Or
there's no piles of laundry in my bedroom.
What?
There's no piles of laundry in my bedroom. Wouldn't that be a miracle?
Yeah, I know. I did that today. I did all the laundry. And I vacuumed the whole house, and like not just vacuumed the whole house, but I like got into the underneath things and around things, and I put everything up on top of chairs and like did all the vacuuming.
That's why I said, like, the houses are the cleanest. Even us, like, we're neat freaks, and this house has been the cleanest it's ever been. And I don't know that it would have been this way even if we just had an open house without this happening. I don't think we would have cleaned stuff. Right. But we like clean stuff.
Yeah. I was like underneath the bed, getting the piece of wood, the frame, the dust collects on the frame.
Nice.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Don't you feel better though? That's what I did like last week, and I never clean. Like I just cleaned the whole floor. I like waxed it all. I did everything with all the hardwoods, and I was like, I feel a little better now.
Yeah, because it's a sense of control and achievement that's so immediate. Yeah,
totally. Like, and if the result is a clean house, like, mazel tov.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, we're getting to the end of the questions that I can come up with. Is there anything you guys think that we should share with those who are now in the same situation and dealing with their own struggles?
Dear Lord, can somebody, one more person tells me not to panic, I swear. Just don't tell me not to be anxious and not to worry about it. That doesn't work in a normal situation. It's not working now. Don't tell me not to wear a mask if that makes me feel a sense of security. And if I didn't literally steal it off the face of a doctor, like, just let me have my little like comforts that I need to have in order to feel a little bit in control in this very out of control situation. Like, just stop telling people how they need to feel. And that's me telling you how you need to feel.
No, that's telling people how to behave.
But I need you for like 2 weeks to not tell me not to panic, because I have a very different amount of anger about it now. Because normally I'm like, oh, they don't understand anxiety. Now I'm like, would you not just leave me alone?
It's like, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think instead of saying to people, don't panic, say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Just
that requires a lot of like investment. I would say that that's going really far. I would just say, like, just wish them well. If you don't know what to do, just be like, well wishes. I hope you lots of health. Like, just something because if you're not in an I understand if you're not, like, that's great advice. I'm not trying to detract from you.
I get it. I totally get it.
But if you are not in a place to emotionally offer that support, I don't want you to ask me how I'm doing, because I'm one of those people that will unload, because again, I get, just as an advocate, my job is to sit here for 3 hours and unload on people so that they feel more comfortable about their own issues. So I think everybody does that. So if you're asking me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you I'm really stressed out.
Fan of England where they don't want a response. Like, okay,
yes, yeah, just be like, I see you're really stressed out. I wish you the best. That's it. And walk away. You don't need to give me any advice or any input or tell me to shut up or tell me not to panic. Just walk away. And it's not offensive. You wish me well. Okay. So nobody's upset. Yeah. I clearly have strong feelings.
I have to say, having grown up on the East Coast and now living on the West Coast, that's a very East Coast thing to say.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate it. We're a lot more passive out here. And just smile and nod, or say, hey, hope all is well. See ya.
Yeah.
Elbow bump.
Listen, just tell me that to quote Parks and Rec, anytime in doubt, just say, that sucks. You don't have to say anything else. You just say, wow, that sucks.
It's true.
That's it. And we can all commiserate and feel it's 2 words, and we can all commit, and like nobody's gonna be like, no, this doesn't suck. This is a great time for everybody. Like,
For humanity.
yeah. Humanity as a whole. Yeah. Somebody apparently in Trader Joe's told my husband that this is great for our economy. And he was like, what? So that's happening. I mean, like, people are trying to find the bright side.
That's quite the silver lining.
Yeah. The workers at Trader Joe's literally turned to him. So I was told. And we're like, we literally don't have anything to restock the shelves with. So no, but okay, sir. Like, whatever you need to tell yourself in this time. Yeah.
I feel like mine would be, and it ties into that because my best friend works in a grocery store and he's the person at night stocking the shelves. He's the person on the inside telling me that there is no toilet paper because they have not received toilet paper, so I should not go into the store the next day because there is not any. And I think he'll be okay because I assume that they will continue to stock shelves and he'll probably keep his job. But he's also homeless and, you know, showers at the gym and has a space that we work and stuff like that. So that's a lot more precarious, you know, and there are plenty of people out there that, you know, aren't lucky enough to have a place, you know, like wherever this person stays, which I'm not going to say, that's going to stay open. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there. So saying that, like, I look at that situation, he's fine. There are others who are not so much fine. And I want to just say, like, oh, well, I shouldn't feel bad and I shouldn't be upset, because there are so many people that have it worse than me. And that's absolutely true. I'm super privileged. I have a really great situation here. But I also think it's only fair to, like, allow myself to feel that without just invalidating it because someone else is worse off than me. So that's, I think, the struggle that is sort of there for people. Like, on one hand, it's like, well, you should really pay attention because you're not really that bad off because you should have perspective. And on the other hand, it's okay to feel bad. Even though you have perspective that it could totally be worse, you're allowed to feel bad. So it's a weird, like, dichotomy.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many layers to that. But I'll say that you can't do anything for other people if you don't take care of yourself. And that includes physical and mental health. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is, it's okay to feel exhausted by that, by compassion and by caring. And it's also okay to set it aside occasionally. But holding that is a sign of great compassion and goodness, right? And knowing that it exists, that care, that concern. And if you really care a lot about it, vote.
Oh, she said it. She threw it in there.
I was going to ask you what yours is, but I think you just said it.
Yeah.
You know, this exposes a lot of inequality in the world.
It does.
And you can't ignore it.
Did you read what Norway had written in one of their emails, where it literally says, in countries, thankfully, something in other countries which are not well equipped do not have the proper medical infrastructure, such as in the USA. Like, it was basically a travel suggestion. Yeah, it was a travel suggestion. Like, don't go to countries where they have really crappy healthcare.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And here it's about access. And yes, I may in fact betray my politics, but I don't think they were any.
I don't think I was sitting here and doubting that, but thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it was a secret.
Yeah. So
okay,
good.
So possibly a seed for systemic change in the future. Not that would be a wonderful thing to be a seed for, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, so anything else before we wrap up? I don't have anything else that I have to
Thank
ask
you so much. Thank you so much for putting this together. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I was
It was a good conversation.
Ladies, so it's a little selfish on my part.
Yeah, no, this was like really awesome to do this and to hear this wisdom And the questions were fantastic, Jenesee. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.